Let's go! Who's up next?
Welcome, Internet, to the Xbox Empire podcast, part of the Play Some Video Games network of podcasts. I'm Elaine, joined by Donnie.
Greetings, Koopalings.
It's Wednesday. What are you doing?
It's hump day.
What are you doing? It's been a hell of a... It has been a hell of a
I've had a long
hump day.
2.5 days. I'm really excited to podcast with you. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
I was
get
thinking that
away
too.
for a minute.
Yes, I was like, I'm putting this do not record sign on my basement door, and I was like, kids, I love you, but deal with your dad. You're his problem. You're never a problem. You're a blessing.
Make some
But
cereal.
you're his blessing.
Figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. You're his blessing. All right, we have lots to talk about because it never stops. It's exhausting.
We're launching a console.
I wish we were launching the console because then I would have it now.
It's coming soon.
We'll get there. Let me give a shout out to our Patreon producers, and then we'll get there because I need the official countdown date. Before we get into this, big thanks to the Patreon producers and also everybody with the retweets on the Bird app and the Discord and all of the other Patreon support. But the producers, Edwin Callow, Barry Cathcart, Josh Bonesaw Bourbon, Chris McElfresh, Devin Tyus, Kyle Heyman, Paul Calicote, Michael Masick, The Egg Shen, Zach Bradshaw, Nick Fallhaber, Rude Days 93, Rob Emanuel, Ben Moxham, and Grouchy Surge. As always, gotta keep that one last forever. I like
Get
a good
that,
grr in my life.
Get that 2 hours of Rebecca DLC that just dropped. We had
Yeah,
several folks
dude.
that just signed up just to hear her episode.
She's a star.
She's such
Stop
a star.
It, Rebecca.
She's
We love you.
9,000 Twitter followers.
I know. She's more popular than both of us combined.
I knew DK Magpie when she had like 60 followers. Okay, I was there at the beginning. I'm like that.
You were there in the
fan.
beginning?
Yeah.
I hope you're saying that about me and you someday.
That would be great.
We were following each other in the beginning.
That would be
Now we're
great.
huge stars. For now, we're just here to talk about a console that's coming out in how many days, Donnie? Give me a number.
I have 19 days and 3
What?
hours, which means 18 days. 18 days from the time you're hearing this podcast. We're 18 days out. Now, it seems like forever because
It seems forever. It does.
we're going to go through hell before we get to November 10th.
It's going to be a real lit couple weeks here in the United States of
But
America.
it is only 18 more days. 18 more days.
2020 has already been 3 decades long. So really, what's 18 more days?
That's
the way
really
that I
good
see
way
this.
of looking at it.
We've gone through all of the plagues at this point. We've gone through all of the Revelations books. Can we just get a console?
Could you imagine a last-minute delay?
Because locusts swarmed
Just
in and took it.
something happens, right? And
Just
they're like, guys,
frogs.
it'll be December 10th.
It'll be parted rivers.
That'll be
we're
what
not
will
doing
happen.
this.
That'll
We're not
set
doing
off.
this.
That'll set off the purge.
I will flip an actual table over.
People will be
I will-
very angry.
I will actually realize my Italian angry lady fantasy and just flip a table.
I saw the
It'll
DLC stuff for Valhalla today and all the other stuff for
Yeah.
Valhalla today.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna play Valhalla.
You're gonna play Valhalla because you want to be a war Viking, lady or man. Doesn't matter.
It looks
Vikings are
super
cool.
fun. I'm like,
Vikings
oh,
are
no.
cool.
How am
Vikings
I gonna,
have axes.
How am I gonna play all these games?
You're not. I made. I was telling my husband this because my husband loves a good spreadsheet.
Yeah.
If you want to get under my husband's collar, it's a spreadsheet. I love him. He's a nerd. And I was like, I made a spreadsheet, and he's like, what you doing? I'm like, figuring out how much money I'm going to spend the week of November 8th. And he's like, what'd you get to? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you a number. I'm not going to tell you a number. I'm just going to tell you there are like 8 or 9 games I want to play that week that are out in a 3-day period. And he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, just thinking of quitting my job.
Yeah.
He's like, can you make a living doing this? I'm like, absolutely not.
That's what it's gonna take. So I guess my question really comes down to, can I get a great sense of enjoyment from playing 3 games that I rotate constantly across different systems? Can I like play one on Monday, the other one on Tuesday, the next one on Wednesday, and just keep that going? Is that a good way to enjoy a game?
That's
Or
a good
do I
question.
just need to commit to one, make her the
Boy.
lady of my life for a period of time, and then get to the other one?
I feel like you need to. This is the perfect time to test this. This is the perfect time for empirical data about whether or not you can do that.
Empirical data. you say?
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's good.
get some numbers. Like, rate your enjoyment every day on a scale of 1 to 10 and see what happens when you come out the other side.
I mean, if you paid attention to the Twitter today, I mean, there's nothing to be excited about. The Xbox says no games. It's just the launch lineup is horrid. It's so bad.
Lord. I actually did. I did make a list, and there's a lot of video games.
Here
on
I
that
am
list.
trying to figure out how I'm going to handle myself through January 1st, at least.
I'm going to be, this podcast will slowly be more of my hair coming undone and being curled and crazy because I
What
can't.
time?
I don't know what there's too many video games.
I feel like people have already forgotten what The Witcher was.
Shh.
They're like, oh
Don't
yeah,
speak ill.
CD Projekt Red is going to release a game. I'll play it in a weekend. No, nobody's doing that to Cyberpunk. You're going to be playing Cyberpunk for weeks, if not months.
This is a real problem for me personally, because like I say this a lot, but because of the genre list that I enjoy is so broad, like I want to play everything. It's not just like, it's not FOMO, like, oh, everybody is doing it, so I want to. It's no, I like all these.
I have
video
4
games.
legit games that I desperately want to see a significant investment in. I want to play Age of Calamity. I want to play Valhalla. I want to play Cyberpunk, and I want to play Call of Duty. And
wow, I wasn't expecting Call of Duty to be.
They all release in like 8 days.
I know. I literally, like I said,
What am I supposed to do?
I can't quit this job because then I can't finance this hobby. That's the problem. This is the classic. When I was 20, I had more time than money, and now that I'm 30, in my 30s, I have more money than time.
That's the way it goes.
Which is a first world problem in 2020.
Sure.
Okay, let's just be very clear.
I mean, we're podcasting. Podcasting in itself is
a luxury,
indicative of our stature.
Like, look, we know who we are, Donnie.
Yeah, we're not even talking to each other on the phone. We're recording it in hopes that other people also want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. And they do. It's weird. Sometimes I'm like, are you sure?
I absolutely love it.
It's fantastic. Yeah, there's too many video games.
There's a lot.
This is a problem I didn't think I would have coming into a launch lineup, because usually you come into a launch lineup and it's like, there's a video game or two.
I was told by several experts today that the Xbox One was a better launch. It had Rise.
I need to go lay down. Like, actually might have taken me out.
And look, I understand the point they're trying to make. I get that. I understand it. And it's true. By the way, I should have mentioned, we released an extra episode this past week where I did 2 hours breaking down the 30 launch lineup games that Xbox is doing with the Xbox Drive BAW. And I said it then, it's not a stellar launch lineup if you're looking at it through that prism. The problem is that prism is so broken today. Like, that's not an adequate way of looking at it. You're not looking at the launch window. You're not looking at the quality of the games that you have. Who cares about an exclusive to a machine or anything if it's Rise?
Also, who cares about
Rise?
Questionable launch games when you could just have games you might have played and gotten frustrated with at the end of a console cycle better. You know what I mean? Like, we're not playing the same.
Assassin's Creed Unity on Xbox One, right?
Shh.
And now we have Valhalla.
I'm really excited about Valhalla.
Right?
I can't say this enough. Like, I feel like that's a cosplay I might actually commit to.
And we had Rise. Yeah. And now we have Cyberpunk.
And yeah, they're not exclusive. And yeah, you can totally buy them on the last gen system. But the game is different now. We're not playing the same game.
Either way, it's really going to be awesome.
This is the first not the first week in November. Second week in November is very exciting. This first week in November is a dumpster fire.
Plus
guaranteed.
Game Pass. That was another thing that the whole, and I'm just tangenting here because
I'm allowing you to do it.
Today's little talky talk like really kind of bummed me out, because it was like, I said this to my good friend Chase on Twitter today. To evaluate the Xbox based on its launch lineup of exclusive or brand new titles on day one is completely omitting and missing the entire point, the pitch of the box, the service, in the ecosystem.
We've said this before. We'll continue to say this, right? We're not playing the same game as in 2013. This is not
or 2004 or 1994. It's a whole different world now.
We're looking at a different definition of a home console. We're looking at a different definition of like all of that stuff. Like, it's a different situation, and these are different boxes, and they're looking to do different things.
We've never ever launched a console where somebody could actually bring it home day one and play hundreds, if not thousands of games.
Yes. I can hot swap my existing One X.
How?
For this box?
How?
Magic. They have a voodoo doll. I
How
don't know
does
who
that
it does.
launch lineup
Yeah.
weaker than anything else? And
Oh,
look,
there's new.
Nathan, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm glad you liked Rise. I thought Rise was fine.
Rise was fine.
But it
I
was
did not
fine.
hate Rise.
You know, it was pretty.
It was pretty.
It's not Cyberpunk. It's not going to be
No.
Cyberpunk. It never was going to be Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And in a lot of this stuff, I even brought it up today. Again, you know, people are talking about there's not enough games, and this had this many sequels. And it's like the Switch launched with 3 games.
And it's one of my favorite systems in my house right now, hands
and
down.
Nobody cared.
No.
Like, people cared the week before the Switch launched out, and then day 2, nobody cared.
This is the conversation that we always have leading into hardware launches. We just haven't done it in so long that we forgot how this usually goes. How this usually goes is everybody fights amongst themselves about which games are better at launch and who has the better launch and who has more exclusives. And then the consoles come out and everybody just shuts up and plays some video games, which is the point.
Social media has made it worse.
It has. I think that the explosion of the Bird app has definitely...
We are overanalyzing everything. Which is why we were complaining about why people are complaining about the resolution of the UI, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh God.
I have never once looked at my Xbox and went, you know, it's a little fuzzy.
We're not doing that today. We're not doing it. I will not turn this podcast around, a thing I have threatened so many times before. Here we are. Look, consoles are coming out in 18 days, which is just over 2
so excited. I can't wait. I got my S today. I was one of the people that got in through Best Buy.
Yeah, Best Buy dropped a bunch more consoles today, which I think is interesting. They're trickling them out amongst the retailers. I hope that means that this launch goes smooth for everybody who ordered and gets what they want. Oh my God. Please. Let one thing in 2020 go well.
And I sold my Cyberpunk to a friend of the PSVG family who's going to meet me. We're going to meet to buy it. I'm selling it to him at a discount, of course. I would never take, fam money like that, but I'm selling it to him at a sweet discount, and hopefully that I get a cool selfie that we get to pick and make an experience out of it. But I posted today. I was like, hey, I've got this Cyberpunk console. It's less than a year old. I keep my stuff in pristine condition. Like, I am looking to just replace my Series S money with this console. And I even took a little less. I didn't realize he was so close. I was like, dude, if you're so close and we're just going to meet, don't worry about it. Like, you
don't even have to ship it.
What's $50 between friends?
Oh, look at you!
Like that's the experience and the story will be worth any money. So I am.
Let's
jacked.
Go.
I've got
let's go.
I've got my external SSD.
That's right.
Stacked. I am ready to go.
Just like cards lined up, ready to be jacked into this system on day one.
I've already moved files between which ones.
Oh my God. I cleared a space on it. I think I said this last week, but if I didn't, I cleared a space on my shelf for the dueling obelisks that will be up there. My husband's like, do you really need this much space? I'm like, I don't think, let me paint a word picture for you. These are big boys. These are big, thick boys. So I think that we're not the only ones excited. Look, Phil Spencer is giving interviews, because that's what Phil Spencer does. Mr. Spencer, if you're nasty, and I might be. Look, so he actually gave an interview to Kotaku.
This was an insane.
This was a hell of an interview.
Yeah,
there was a lot of information.
They got the scoop, all the scoop.
I feel like that's always been the great Kotaku story, right? Like they often do. But they got some information out of him and some really interesting quotes and sound bites. Let's talk about the Series S, since you got one ordered today, and it's, let's talk about how he feels about this box. Where does Phil land on this box? He seems to think, he seems to think of it as both a low end, Xbox and that companion console that we've talked about before, Quote, maybe buying 2 $500 consoles is going to be a difficult thing. So he said, hey, let's make sure we've got something to catch a second console owner, which is a thing we've discussed on the show a number of times.
I think it's proven in the marketplace that it's smart to be the companion. You can sell a lot if you can make yourself the companion. I think the Wii was the companion console.
The Switch is largely too.
Yeah.
You can make an easy argument, and I think that what Nintendo did at that $300 price point is set the barrier that Xbox felt like they had to hit. They felt like if they were going to sell this thing as a companion, it had to hit that number.
Yeah.
And that astonishes me because of what's in this box. He also mentioned that he had some games on this thing load faster than on his X, just because they're pushing in lower res graphics. We've discussed
Smart
that.
delivery. the term everybody keeps making fun of. Jason Ronald said that when they unveiled it. He said, like, look, because this is lower in GPU, it's not loading that type of stuff, so your game files might be smaller, your load times might be quicker.
Right.
Same CPU, same memory storage. It's just the GPU. It's just the graphical output, which we've also seen several examples this week. Games running in 4K, like The Tourist runs in 4K on the S. So for people that were like, you know, the S can only do 1080p. No, it's going to do a lot of new games at 1080p.
Right.
That's going to be a real thing. But there'll be plenty of games that go 1440 or higher.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that it can't push that. It's just not going to push that for everything. Like they're not going to give you the same. Obviously, they're not going to give you the same
Different
performance as a
GPU.
box.
There's a limit. Yeah. Indie games and stuff, you will still get all the performance that you can get out of it.
Absolutely. And if you're sitting on a 1080p TV, how much do you care?
Doesn't matter.
You know, how much do you care? Like, put that box on there. Let's do that. You know. He also this was an interesting comment, and I believe he's right. He thinks that doesn't matter who you are, any unit you put into the market next month is going to sell.
So I brought that up today. Let me ask you this, tying into the little rant I just took about this launch lineup. Knowing that no matter what, when the big three platform providers launch console, it will sell out. Like that's just on record. The Xbox One sold out, the Wii U sold out. Like they all sell out for at least the first month. Even if it's a colossal flop, you're going to sell out the first month. Does it make a lot of sense to have an exclusive launch title in that window?
That's an interesting conversation.
Or does it make more sense to maybe hold on to that for month 2 or 3 or 6?
Or accidentally next year.
Whatever. Like I brought that up today because there was two things. The people that were really going at the Xbox launch lineup, they seem really focused on box exclusives, which I've said it before, so I won't dwell on it, but I feel like it's a thing of the past. It's like an old way of looking at it. It's so antiquated today. But even with the exclusive part of it, like think about how many people are not getting one of their favorite consoles in 19 days.
Right. So
if you had exclusive Halo, then all of these people couldn't play it. That sucks. That's not a good thing.
I also think that the people who are frothing day one, who are having multiple windows open to buy consoles, with the exception of people like me, who's an idiot and will buy everything because I can and I want to, they've already picked. I don't necessarily think that the games themselves matter for, I would say, probably 80% of those day one purchasers. They know what ecosystem they want to stay in. And this argument is just there to be the schoolyard.
They're either going one way or the other, or they're going all.
Yeah, which is me. I'm that idiot. I know who I am.
And in all scenarios, you're right. They've already all picked.
They made that choice. Like you're fighting on Twitter about exclusives because you want to have an argument on Twitter. Yeah. You're not fighting on Twitter about exclusives because you're trying to make a case for somebody to buy a box. You already know what you're gonna do, dude.
Yep.
Like, and that's fine. Like that's okay. Like if you want to own a PlayStation, that's totally your choice. And if you want to own an Xbox, and if you want to be a big dumb idiot and buy both, you can be me. But like all of these people who are having these arguments, they already made their call. They're buying an ecosystem and the down the line purchases, and that's okay. That's totally good. But no one who is sitting there wringing their hands at this point.
You buy early hardware for the long-term promise, and that's why it was good for Xbox to say, we bought Bethesda, we're bringing back Fable. That's why that stuff means something, because you buy now knowing that that's down the road.
Absolutely. Or you don't buy now because you can't get one and your point stands. Like you make a decision next year.
All the argument that we had like all summer, like the last 6 or 8 months about Spider-Man's exclusive to PS5 and you like now that we're almost here, I hope people like look at that and realize that it is a bad thing. Think of all the millions of people that wouldn't have got to play Spider-Man. And here's the thing.
Sure.
It's not like the pre-order process was good. It was
that was a nightmare
across the board, right? So it's like, what is the point of locking a game to that console where everybody else can't play it? That doesn't make any sense.
Like it made sense a decade ago.
Yes.
7 years ago. Because it was a different world 7 years ago. I actually think that what
even
happened
last gen we had a lot of at the start of last we had a lot of crossover. I think the point is true. Like, and this is why I always say it's old. I think it's old. I think it's tired. It's like it's old fashioned. And the reason I say it is when you upgraded to the Super Nintendo or 64 or Saturn or GameCube, the technologies in every one of those boxes were so vastly different. They ran completely different engines. Stuff was not compatible without reworking. All of that is gone. It's just not a part of today's world at all. Like, it's all gone. It's all old.
And in replacing that has come this like commitment to an ecosystem. Like, if you play on PlayStation and you've collected all these trophies on PlayStation and you own these digital purchases, like, are you really going to flip that script and just buy an Xbox? Like, it would have to be an earth-shattering thing for you to make that choice. And even then, you would rather back justify your PS5, even if it doesn't seem ideal on paper, or vice versa for an Xbox person, because you've invested so much. Like, I have a ton of achievement points. There are people who care about those numbers. Like, you don't just swap, especially day one purchasers. Those are the people who have humongous libraries of video games.
And I love the Switch, and I love it. Its launch. It gave me one of my favorite games of all time. But that Switch launch doesn't compare to the Xbox Series X launch.
No, absolutely not. But
crazy?
Nintendo has found magic with that little box.
I had Snipper Clips, Shovel Knight, and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. For a long time. Yeah. Now I have a huge Switch library now, so
yeah,
which I'm sure will break my heart at a later date.
And could you imagine? I've been bringing this up on Nintendo Shack. Sorry, to Nintendo Takeover.
Say a thing that's going to raise my blood pressure.
Could you imagine if the next Switch was like, it's not backwards compatible?
The probability is
high. I would
high.
Snap it in half. I'm so angry if that happens.
Probability is pretty high, dude. They don't like to do that.
I just don't think we can do that anymore. I think this is a different world. You can't do that anymore unless you change the game, right? If they go away from mobile back to PC architecture, I understand.
They won't though.
But they won't. So if they keep their little mobile ARM-based system, then it better be backwards compatible.
I actually think that of
the Xbox serious issues.
Forward. Yeah, I think that of the Xbox going forward now. You've now set a precedent, right? And good or bad or ugly or however you feel about it, once you set a precedent like that on a digital library that can then be huge, like I have a
precedent like we believe in generations.
Oh, stop that. I've made that joke like 15 times in the last couple of weeks.
Sorry to interrupt you about the S. So Phil thinks that the S might outsell the X, which I agree with. He
does think that. And I think that long term does have the potential to be true.
I agree.
I think that we may reach an inflection point where the X starts to outsell as the number of 4K TVs in people's homes increases.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think that there will be a bell curve of S sales and an inverted one for X sales.
I think as prices come down for both, the S will continue to gain popularity. And I also think as the price comes down for accessories and storage, I think the S will continue to gain popularity. And I think as we have mid-gen refreshes, I think the S will continue to gain popularity.
That's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, because I could see an S Pro or an S Plus or whatever, obviously with more storage at the same price. But even what if they even gave it a GPU boost? Yeah,
that's what I was wondering too. The thing is, there's going to reach a point where people are buying more 4K TVs and that turnover, like the ratio of 1080p to 4K flips, right? Eventually that's going to happen. It hasn't yet, but it's working its way there. And once that happens, I think people who care are going to make the call, and they might flip.
That's the question: is how many people care? Let's say they can sell 70 million consoles. Of those 70 million people, how many people you think really care?
Less than a third.
I was going to say 30.
Less. Yeah, I would say it's
30.
I really do think that it's like
I think more people care about cost.
I 100% guarantee in 2020 that is 100% correct, and into 2021, because the economic situation we are in as a country and a world is such that, yes. 100%.
I don't want to use my use case to just, predict the future for the rest of the world, but like the value of the S is in itself that I bought it.
Yeah, sure.
I bought an X and then I was like, but I also want this on the other TV. That's the value of the S. The value of the S is that it's so attainable at that price that on a Black Friday deal or a used deal or a temporary price cut, a lot of people go, why not?
I think that's a walk in the store.
$260, sure. You know, it's so much different buying that than $500. $500 requires some thought.
It's funny that you say that, because we turn that over in double for a cell phone every year.
I spent like $3,000 today.
It's funny because $500, it sounds like a lot of money for a video game console, but I gotta walk around with a freaking $1,000 phone in my hand all day. It's ridiculous. And then I don't refresh mine every year, but some people do.
Most people do.
But $500, I'm like, I don't think you're holding.
That's a necessary item, right? People have to have a phone.
But you don't have to have a $1,500 phone.
Yeah, but you also don't have to have a video game console.
Guys, very much.
Most people don't, right? Most people don't have consoles. Even with all the consoles we have, they still, as I always say, console market is legit like 200 million people.
Yeah,
That's not even
absolutely.
a console for everybody in America. That's globally. That's like the global console space. In a lot of ways, the console space, people should always think of it as like a pie chart. Console space, tiny minority compared to mobile
Absolutely.
and PC.
Absolutely. It's 100% true because we have
Tiny.
those things for other causes. And so it's just a duping situation. Oh, I already have this. So the S could serve to be that thing, though. Oh, you want a 4K Blu-ray player? Does it play 4K Blu-rays? It doesn't, does it?
No disk drive.
No. Oh, that's right. It has no disk drive.
Yep.
I forgot all about that. It's so adorable.
Wait for the 1S to be like $99.
I would buy one I'm going to buy at least one used for one of my children because it's time they're sitting on the Betamax of consoles up in their rooms. So, all right. What else do we have to talk about? All right. Well, look, we couldn't have an interview with Phil without Mr. Spencer, without talking about this Bethesda deal again, because everybody wants to know. So this is an interesting conversation.
I loved it.
I'm clearing my throat. I apologize. The question was essentially, can they recoup the money they spent on Bethesda's purchase or ZeniMax's purchase by omitting PlayStation? And Phil was very quick to say, yeah, and largely because the point is not to recoup the cost of that.
So here's the thing. It's a great question to ask from press side because you're painting him in a corner and you're kind of making him have to answer. But the premise of the question as it was being used is a terrible premise.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible premise.
Right.
That's not how companies act.
They're trying to paint him into are you going to lock your games to an Xbox console? Just ask the damn question, man. Like, asking it this way is kind of frustrating. Like, I think we've discussed this multiple times. You don't spend money on an acquisition to make back that money. That's not the way that business works.
I like that they asked this question actually to him because for all of the people that have been saying it, it actually made him go on record and respond to it. So
and he did, to his credit.
Yep.
How did he answer this, Donnie? Why don't you tell me?
I'll be Phil Spencer here. The deal was not done to take games away from another player base like that. Nowhere in the documentation that we put together was, how do we keep other players from playing these games? We want more people to be able to play games, not fewer people to be able to play games. But I'll also say in the model, I'm just answering directly the question that you had. When I think about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud, and PC, and Game Pass, and our console base, I don't have to go ship those games on any other platform other than the platforms that we support in order to kind of make the deal work for us, whatever that means.
The bottom line is he asked the question, they answered. I'm not worried about how much I spent.
Yep.
If the only place the games land is on my stuff. Don't worry about it.
Jeff Grubb broke this down expertly, actually. He brought it in a very good, like a financial, not games base, which I appreciate because I feel like the people that keep saying this, like it's weird that PlayStation fans are suddenly worried about Microsoft's financials. Like it's a weird place to be in.
Oh, that's why we're all very bored and we don't have consoles. So we're fighting about
as Jeff Grubb put it, and this is how people need to think about it. They spent $7.5 billion, by the way, completely out of reserve.
Microsoft has a ton of money.
Over $40 billion in cash.
Yeah, they're very liquid too, interestingly enough. My husband actually also broke this down for me. He's like, they're one of the companies in tech that's very liquid, which is rare.
So the question of the acquisition isn't how many Bethesda games can they sell to make $7.5 billion? That's not the question.
Right.
The question that you need to be concerned with is, will the money earned from profits and Game Pass subscriptions from the acquisition of Bethesda equal or exceed the interest that $7.5 billion in cash was just sitting there earning? And
yes.
The answer is yes. Like undoubtedly yes.
Let's say you're lucky and you're earning 2%. Yeah, let's say you're earning 2% on that money. Like it's absolutely.
And
you're
it's
right.
not in a year, and it's not in 5 years. It's not a console cycle. They're looking at an acquisition 30 years away.
This is
beyond Nadella, beyond Phil. Like they won't even reap the benefit. They'll be gone by the time all this happens.
And this is a company that doesn't care, because this is a company that has the money to do it. Like this is, they can do it. They can just, let's do it. You know what I mean? And I think that this speaks, spending that kind of money doesn't necessarily speak to how quickly they can recoup the cost. It speaks to the confidence that they have in a service they're building. right? It speaks to the confidence of Game Pass, right? I'm going to spend $7.5 billion to flush Game Pass out even more.
Yep.
That's how confident I am in my service.
It wasn't
right?
even like an acquisition, as more of it was a reinvestment into their own thing. They're just
it's
investing
exactly
into their
what
own
it
thing.
is. Yes, which is, as any financial person will tell you, is the way to grow a business.
Smart.
It's brilliant. That's what you do with the money that's sitting around. You don't sit and hoard it like a dragon, like Donnie does with memory units. All right, look, you reinvest it into yourself. Yeah, that's right. I brought it back. It had to happen. I'm an elephant. I never forget.
All right. So I saw two reactions from this. The first reaction was actually my first reaction. So I'm going to use my reaction as the reaction I saw from the rest of the world. My first reaction that I posted the moment the story hit in our Discord was, Bethesda games are exclusive to Game Pass.
I still don't believe you. I just think the conversation is they don't have to go to the PlayStation 5.
Sure. I think this statement paints it extremely clear, almost as clear as possible, without explicitly saying they're exclusive to Game Pass, that they are exclusive to Game Pass. I don't see any other way of reading this, with the exception that I saw several people saying that he said that we want more people to be able to play games. That means they're coming to PlayStation. I'm like, did you not read the entire statement?
I think what he's done, and I want to give Phil Spencer a lot of credit, because getting painted into a corner live in an interview like this and handling it this way is some expert level stuff.
He is good.
Like he is very composed.
He was coached.
No, he's like that. I think he like legitimately, maybe over the years, right? But he's built a very good interview persona, and he's
done well. But
this.
you had to know that he was ready for this question.
He was ready for the
was
question. Yes, but he handled it really well, and he said exactly as much as he needed to say.
I agree.
He answered the question. We don't need to.
To support my take from it, I only go to the next comment he made when he was asked about putting their games on Nintendo, and he said it doesn't feel sustainable. Sustainable is an interesting word to use.
It is.
Because he says to consider Xbox games on a case-by-case basis for Switch, in order to really support it, I would want a full Xbox ecosystem somewhere, and that probably means things like Xbox Live and Game Pass and stuff. Again, if they're not going to publish games to Nintendo on a case-by-case basis without Game Pass, I don't think they're going to publish games to PlayStation on a case-by-case basis without Game Pass.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Many.
I'm going to play devil's advocate because I think that bumping those games to Switch is more work than putting them on a PlayStation console, because you have to consider how much less you can wring out of that device.
Sure, of course.
It becomes a different conversation. Do you know what I mean? I think you're probably right. In the long run, they're probably going to eventually, like, a couple of games will come out on PS5, or they'll be timed exclusive to Game Pass. You'll get a few, and then they'll just be done.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anything else beyond the ones that are already agreed to. And I'm not trying to say that I want that to happen. I want to be clear. We've already talked about this, but new listeners may not know. You and I are both very open and quite happy if they put games on PlayStation 5.
Games should go everywhere.
Yeah, I don't care. But I think the push, and this is what I said the day that the Bethesda acquisition came out, the push isn't consoles and the push isn't revenue. The push is Game Pass.
It's a service.
They're
selling you.
First success metric is recurring Game Pass subscriptions. That's before revenue. That's before units sold. Everything is how many subscribers do we have this month and how many do we have next month. That's what it's about. And every time you put one game anywhere else, you lessen that metric.
Yeah, I actually think this is going to be interesting. I think that the reason he's not being committal here is because he wants to wait and see what the PS5 does. I really do think that. I think, if he sits there and
it's a good opinion.
He could, if they sell huge numbers, it's not necessarily a conversation about how much money they'll make on it, but there is a conversation about getting those games in front of more people and potentially using maybe one or two games that go over to drag people into that companion console.
See, I will be your devil's advocate.
That's fair.
If
That's how we
Bethesda
do.
makes a really great game that everybody wants to play, then
And
you
is that the
hold
system
it.
seller? That's true.
Until Switch and PlayStation allow the xCloud Game Pass app to be published on their stores. I totally think that Xbox will if ever given the ability to do so, they would happily put the Game Pass app on other consoles. And they'll let you stream those games until your heart's content for $15, $20 a month. Like, they're happy to do that. And I think that's the idea. I think that's what they want to do. They want to put Game Pass on everything. And that
If-
includes PlayStation and Switches.
I think if they can make a really compelling argument to Nintendo, Nintendo would go there with them.
I think-
because I think there are a lot
I
of
think
games
it
that
will
Nintendo is missing out on,
Yep.
and they can't quite, and they've used streaming as a solution in
Yep.
other countries. So I could see Nintendo saying, "Yeah, well, we'd love to have that Resident Evil 8."
If Game
we can't
Pass
run it.
takes off and the content library is good enough, I even see that as a way of forcing PlayStation's hand.
There's no way they will ever do it.
I disagree.
I think there's no way,
If
because
Game Pass
they
has 80 million subscribers
no.
and they're shelling out $15 a month, and PlayStation can get a kickback of that just
I
by
don't-
putting the streaming on their thing, because that's the thing, it's just streaming. You're not losing
Yes.
games sold. If
I
anything, you're
think-
only
true.
enhancing the PlayStation user base.
That's fair. The thing I think about that is, I don't know that they would be able to find a deal, a financial deal that would sell it to them.
I agree.
I think they would
That I
want
agree, and I-
more than Microsoft would be
It would
willing to
absolutely kill PlayStation now. I mean, there's a
give.
lot
Yes.
to
There's too much.
financially. There's a lot here. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be this generation. I see a world where Game Pass is the next big thing, where they're painted into a corner. You may not have a choice. That exists.
Maybe.
That's a possibility.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? I can't sit here and say that it isn't a possibility, because we're at the point now where anything is possible. Consoles are different, right?
Yeah.
There's a possibility that we get to next generation and they both just decide to be service companies.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
We may
possibility
just have
that
apps going forward.
100%.
Yeah.
They may have whatever box they may call each other up and say, "Look, why don't we just get some hardware into the freaking market
And-
together and just
Once again,
push apps to
the
it."
other thing that I bring up, and I'm going to continue to bring it up because I don't feel like the press is covering this part of it nearly enough. The acquisition of Bethesda and their entire property, like IP ownership, that I think puts Xbox over the edge in a content delivery service. So let's say the future is all apps. I don't think Xbox before Bethesda really had enough to stand on by
Absolutely not.
themselves without third
Correct.
party to warrant a subscription from you. Now,
Agree.
now they do.
Yes.
They do now. Like with Bethesda, there's totally, if like let's say we just had a Roku
Yep.
and subscriptions, right? You could subscribe to Ubisoft, you could subscribe to EA. You are absolutely subscribing to Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, because Bethesda and Xbox, that's a great catalog. Like without
It's
Bethesda, it's a good catalog, but it's got some hits and some misses and some things that are for some people and not others. But with Bethesda, it's a no-brainer.
I also think that it gives you that, like, you're guaranteed to be able to open up Game Pass and find all of Microsoft's existing like the games that they're always on Game Pass. They don't get cycled off, right? So if now the argument is once they get to it, all of the Bethesda stuff is always there as a base.
Yep.
The problem for me is always the cycling, right? I love Game Pass. I use it a ton, but like you're never going to boot it up and guarantee a game you want is on there if it's a third party.
Sure.
If they own it, then it's going to be there. I'm going to be able to play Forza. Going to happen every time,
And
right?
I think the video wars have proven that it's not about who has the best format. It's not about Blu-ray. It's not about DVDs. Like that was a thing of the past. It's now
We're done
about
there.
who has content.
It-
And
it's this-
Xbox,
yeah.
3 years ago, was severely lacking in content, and they've caught up.
They made a judgment call in this generation that we're sitting at the end of right now, that they were going to become what they've always been, which is a services company. Microsoft is a services company. They sell you Office 365. They sell you Windows. They're a software and services company. They don't sell you boxes. And they made the call. They were like, you know what? Why don't we just lean into what we are good at? And it paid off. This has paid off.
And I think publishing those games on other ecosystems does lessen the value of their first-party content library.
I 100% think that there will never be a scenario again, with the exception of the exclusives that have already been signed, of day and date release on both platforms.
Yeah, that I agree with. Even
That
if they
is
were
done.
to publish Elder Scrolls, it wouldn't be for a year or something.
We are done with day and date once those two games launch on PS5 as promised and as locked in. That is definitely done.
If I
think
was
you
a
and I both
diehard
agree there.
PlayStation fan, I think the best outcome is maybe you get it a year after launch. Maybe.
Absolute best case scenario.
And I'm not even sure if a year, but maybe. That's best case.
I think that the combination of this deal and putting the S into the market as like, look,
Yeah.
you could bitch about this.
It's in that
and you can
statement.
get mad.
That's why I'm thinking like it's in the statement. He is saying like
He is
We
implying it.
don't
yes.
have to use that console. You have a phone. You have a PC.
Right.
We have this box. We have this other box.
Right.
You can play these games whenever you want to.
100%.
You just can't
and I
play
think
them
that.
there.
And I don't, yeah. And I think that this tiered strategy was set up brilliantly. Snap up a huge studio with a ton of games that, like, no, not everybody cares about them, but the
Bethesda
people
was
who
the
do care.
perfect fit.
It was brilliant. And then we're going to release a
Perfect.
companion console into the market.
Yeah.
If you're so
And we're going
mad,
to continue to support PC.
so everybody gets a choice. So what they're saying to the PlayStation owners is, look, you can be big mad about this, or you can spend the same amount of money that you might spend on a Switch to solve the problem.
Yep. And I think they're totally going to release all of those games individually on Steam. If you just hate it, you don't have Game Pass, they'll put it on Steam too.
They've already got that model. Yep. The Master Chief Collection was a perfect, like, lean. Yep. They're ready. That's very smart.
It's not going to come day and date, but they'll publish all that stuff on Steam.
Yeah, they're not. They're so
all
smart.
Those PC players are still going to get to play Doom, and they're not going to have to subscribe to Game Pass. But we had Kyle who just got a new PC in the Discord. I think it was right before you joined, and he loves Life is Strange. I am a huge Life is Strange fan.
Fantastic, huge fan. Yes.
Oh, great. So he was like, I bought the game, and he showed us a receipt on Steam. I was like, what are you doing?
It's on the Game Pass, sir.
Why? And he was like, I don't want to. I was like, I don't know why. I don't know why you would spend 3 times what you had to pay.
But there is that argument about cycling once again. And some people, like, I am a game revisitor. I realize that's not a big, like, a
but
big
even
population
if you wanted to own it, it's like, if you take Allegiance out of it, right? If you're just like, I want you to spend the money as best you can. You spend $10. Yes. You get to play all of it and hundreds of other things for at least a month, and then you buy the game on sale.
Yeah, well, or actually they'll give you a discount off the top.
Yeah.
If you want to own a game, you want to own a Game Pass.
Blew
game.
my mind.
It's
and
true.
he actually, I think he returned it and eventually went game. Like, we shamed him out of it, but that's going to keep
you guys
happening.
Are brutal.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no reason other than I hate Xbox to do it. There's no reason.
And people are entitled to that opinion.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if people want their play, I have no problem with that.
If you want to pay $70 for Doom 6 or whatever, be my guest.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know why you do it, but good for you.
They continue. All right, so Kotaku this was not the end of this conversation. Kotaku decided they were also going to talk to Phil about Halo. And he said he has played Infinite recently, but had no update right now. Y'all, it's not done
can't
yet.
talk about that.
Basically, he's not talking about it. But they pushed on him a little bit, and they asked if he would consider splitting that game, releasing multiplayer and single player separately. And he said Bonnie Ross, the head of the Halo franchise right now, and the team will go drive those decisions. But I think we want to make sure people feel like they have a Halo experience. I think we can look at options like that. It's interesting because I always considered, we had this conversation, you and I, my Halo experience is campaign only. Other people's Halo experience is multi only, and some people enjoy both. Which Halo experience are you giving us, man? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I was going to ask you what you thought was best, because this is interesting. This is interesting for a lot of reasons. I think first and foremost, just the current state of Xbox's lineup, I think puts a lot of pressure on this situation. Mm-hmm. I could see it going both ways. I don't think I really have strong feelings either way. As I told you, I don't think you can release single player first. If you're going to go first, you need to go multiplayer. Get people in there and start playing something.
I legitimately think that for a game like this, that is a pillar of what Xbox has been over the years, don't do it. Don't split it. Give us that big launch, that full package, that Halo experience. Don't play games with this game.
I agree with you.
This is not the game. Because I feel like there's a lot of people like me whose first Xbox experience and love was Halo.
My only concern, though, is if they are thinking that single player is 12, 18 months away, can you afford to wait?
Well, you made the argument.
They might just have their hand forced.
I don't know, man. They got this Game Pass thing with all these Bethesda games. I'm with you. Start getting those onto people's hands.
Yeah, but you're not getting Deathloop and you're not getting Ghostwire. And those are coming out this year.
You're not.
You need
That's
something.
True. Do they?
Yeah.
They
do need something. They need
in these
more
interviews, he does not seem to have that urgency.
No,
whenever he's asked, you know what I mean? He doesn't seem to think that, and he's got the nice number crunchers with the ROI people behind it. He knows.
I mean, I think he knows he's playing with house money at this point, but at some point.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think what I want to say is actually something that I just don't know. And I don't know if anybody knows, because I don't think they've actually gone on record to confirm or deny it. If they had, we knew that Halo multiplayer was going free to play.
Uh-huh.
If they had a battle royale, put that up.
I agree with you on that, although I think that actually,
But I don't know if they have that. I don't know if that's a thing.
Do you think that's really a good idea? Do you think that would piss off more people than it would?
I don't think you can do a multiplayer shooter in today's world if you're not doing a battle royale mode of some kind.
I feel like if you were to poll Halo players, people who have put hundreds of hours into those games,
but I don't care about their opinions on a free-to-play game. I
don't think anybody's going to come off Fortnite for it. That's my real thought. I think that
all the kids would play Halo if it was free.
Oh no,
my son loves Halo and he has no reason to, but all of his friends love.
But he
Halo.
loves Halo as it is right now.
They have Halo toys and all. No, he doesn't. He barely even plays Halo. He just loves Halo.
I think that's interesting.
He just thinks Master Chief is cool. He just likes Halo.
My kids have tried other battle royales and won't come off Fortnite.
I mean, I don't think you can just. I don't think anybody's just going to take Fortnite. That's not the idea.
But if you have to draw those people who love battle royale away from something they're already.
Battle royale is a part of the plan, which I thought it was when they said it was free to play. Like I've been holding out on this, like it's got to be right. It's got to be. Everybody else is doing it. Warzone's doing it. Hyperscape. Like you got to do it. That's where the players are. That's what people are doing.
I feel like people aren't going to come to Halo for that. I feel like that's not the thing they have in their head when they hear that word.
I think that's what Halo players are thinking.
But I think that's the people you're selling this game to.
You're not trying to get Halo players. You're trying to get new Halo players. So you need to do what they're doing, not what Halo players are doing. Because Halo has been shrinking. You're trying to expand that.
Yes. I wonder. That's the conversation. I wonder if they care. I wonder if this service that they are selling is so much bigger to them than this franchise that they don't care anymore about new Halo players. They care about giving somebody essentially, their nostalgia package.
I also think there's an opportunity here where they can have their cake and eat it too. Because it's multiplayer and the multiplayer is probably ready, what I think you can do here to buy yourself some time is to schedule some weekend beta tests.
Absolutely. 100%
if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you're going to get to play the next Halo multiplayer mode for a weekend, and you just kind of rotate one mode at a time to give yourself 6 months of some Halo dose while you buy yourself some single player development time.
And that's not just Halo dose. That is subscribe to Game Pass.
Yeah.
And while you're here after those weekends end, since you already bought a month, why don't you check out what else is on this service? Because I think that's where they care.
And you could subscribe to play this weekend for $1.
Yeah. First month's first hit is free.
You can play Halo this weekend for $1. Oh, and by the way, Doom Eternal's here? That's crazy.
Exactly. Here's something else. Well, you bought a month. Yeah. Why not check it out? And that's how you get people injected in. And I think ultimately, all things equal, that's what they care about. You said it before. They care about bringing up that number. They don't necessarily care about moving a bajillion copies of Halo Infinite. It's going on Game Pass anyway.
I had somebody ask me that today about Gears. I've been talking about the Gears collection, and I think people on Twitter are starting to call it the Phoenix collection.
Yeah, they really want a new collection. I
tweeted about it, and Retrocode, he responded to me. He was like, "What about the people that own the Gears collection?" I was like, "So?" He's like, "Well, they already bought it." I was like, "I don't care. It's Game Pass. In a Game Pass world, do any of us care about that? I don't care about that at all."
I only care about it if I want to own a physical copy of something because I have
what about people that don't have Game Pass? Like, you're missing the boat.
Kind of feeling that way these days. At least
I don't care about the people that have Game Pass.
I think it's a real interesting proposition to have an Xbox in your house and not have that service right now.
Doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense.
But more people do that than have Game Pass. We know that.
Of course. Because recurring subscriptions make people nervous. That's it's just a thing.
So we know that, but I'm not going to. You're never going to hear me advocate for the people who don't have Game Pass. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's the majority. I don't you're just missing the point. I can't help you. Like, do whatever you got to do, but I'm not going to defend that stance because it's a worse stance. It's a bad.
Johnny's just going to have a huge chess piece tattoo that says, "If it's not Game Pass, it's not."
If I had it my way, we would have named this podcast the Game Pass Podcast. That's exactly.
That's kind of what it's become, my dude.
That's what Xbox is.
Well, that's what Xbox is to me. And we've talked about this so many times, and we'll continue to talk about this because we're never getting tired of it.
Buying an Xbox doesn't mean a console. Buying an Xbox means buying Game Pass.
You're purchasing Game Pass.
Wherever and then you're however you choose to play that.
Yeah, which is for me in multiple places because I am a monster. But like I booted up my console today because my Xbox, I should be clear of all the consoles in my home because the new Doom single player content is out. And I have the stupid season pass for that video game. And I'm in there and I'm just like, my son's like, "Oh, Mom, what's in the Game Pass app right now?" And I'm like clicking through and he's like, "How do they have so many freaking games in here?" And I'm like, first of all, you're 10, don't say freaking. Second of all, I don't know, dude.
That completely went over. This is how my language barrier is. You said that and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
I know. Well, they both get away with it all the time because they're cute and they're. It's really funny when little kids
I'm
like
a terrible parent.
No, because my kids hear me curse all the time. I'm willing to take this tangent. And my kid, I'm really bad. I'm actually well behaved on this podcast because I have a sticky note reminding me to be.
The podcast is the one time that if you've ever heard DLC, you know. Our DLC.
Yeah,
shows.
you should get me on there because like then we can actually have a conversation. But my kids are like they watch me play games with language all the time. Like I just don't prefer they say it. But he's flipping through it. He's like, "Mom, can I flip through?" And I'm like, "Go ahead and flip through. Install something you want to play. You know, just click whatever you want to play and install." He's like, "I can." I'm like,
I put it on my son's phone. He's got a little clip and a phone, so he'll play in his room. And then the S, though, the reason I bought the S is for him because I'm always playing mine. So the S will go upstairs, and that's where he'll play Xbox, and he'll have his own Xbox. He can play on his phone in his room. He'll have the S he can play.
This is actually an interesting. I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna inject a listener question because there's a listener question that's related to this conversation.
Okay.
Yuli, I believe. Since you guys also have kids, what are your thoughts on Game Pass family plan? I think with additional consoles being brought into multi-gamer households is a must. How do you guys think they should implement it? I wish they would do this so hard. I brought this
up like 6 months ago. I felt like I was so ahead of the curve.
I wish they would do this so hard because you and I both have the same scenario with our kids. Like your kid, both my kids have Xboxes.
What I think they should be able to do, should be able to do two things that I think need to happen. I think every Game Pass subscriber, every Xbox Live member even, should have a child account that can use their account at the same time.
That would be lovely.
I think that's number uno. We need to have that.
Yeah, that would be good.
And then a family pass plan for Game Pass. I don't know what that looks like. It would have to be some sort of discount. So I would say maybe up to, let's see here.
Maybe we're at 15 a month.
Up to, so $30 a month for
up to four
people that can play at the same time.
Agree. Up to 4 people.
I'm totally doing that. $30? Absolutely. I'm doing that today.
I would, we buy gold for the kids because they play Fortnite, but they like to play together. They sometimes play other games.
Jack plays on my profile because I'm cheap. But
that's fair.
If they gave me a cheap option, like $30 a month, and then let's say I could rope you in on the family plan or Kevin in on the family plan.
Like Nintendo does.
Then it's totally
Nintendo
worth
does
it.
this.
Yeah, we have a 10-person Nintendo Switch PSVG family plan that we all just share.
Yeah, and I use the family plan in my house because we have 3 of us who have Switches too. But it's like, I saw this question. I was like, I've been thinking about this for a while. Like I would love to, because there's so much on Game Pass that my kids would also enjoy and that we could play together. And I get why they don't necessarily want to make that leap, but it's already
my
managing.
Minecraft Dungeons thing.
Yes.
We wanted to play it together and we couldn't.
Right. I'm already managing their accounts.
I want to play Fortnite with Jack on different TVs.
We do that,
but he plays, but you're paying for 2 different accounts.
I pay for gold. I have to pay for gold for all of us, and it becomes a Christmas present every year. But I'm incurring that cost, right? So I actually really want this to happen, and I really, really hope it does.
Yeah, a child account and a family plan would be great. And for them, like you're saying, it's $30 instead of $60. They're losing half the revenue, but they're probably a lot of those accounts are going to probably be dedicated to children revenue they weren't getting anyway. It's gonna be anytime you can lock a person in at a higher price is more valuable than not. So even if so like I am gonna buy it for 30, right? You're locking me in at 30, and otherwise I'm paying 15. How many more people are gonna lock in at 30 versus just not having?
Exactly. There are a lot of people like that just let their kids play Fortnite on a Switch instead of paying for gold or whatever. And a lot of people aren't me. Like we just use it as a Christmas gift.
You go out of your way to do it for free somewhere else. And we get asked this often. I think we've had 7 or 8 questions that people asking, like, how does Game Pass make money? A lot of people, you got to remember, Game Pass is making money not just off of what you would buy, but what you're not buying. They're making money when you're not buying things, and that's almost more important. People are like, well, if you bought more than 2 games a year, you're making a deal. That's right. But think of how many people aren't buying any games a year.
A lot of people don't buy more than 2 games a year.
Right. That's the majority of people is they're not buying.
Large majority.
And how many people wouldn't have Game Pass, wouldn't have an Xbox, or wouldn't play on PC at all? But now that there's Game Pass, they've become a subscriber. Right. That's the value. It's a blue ocean. It's a wide strategy. It's not a tall strategy.
Like I said, services company. They're not stupid. They know how to do this, and I'm actually glad they finally leveraged it into this space because like this is something there, as much as maybe we don't love it, they're good at it. Like they've been good at it for a long time. All right, let's see what else we got. We got one more thing to wrap up about this conversation. Cross-gen games, which is going to become a thing. Like it is a thing. Phil said, I think we're going to take it on a case-by-case basis. I feel like maybe he's got that tattooed somewhere on his body, and he's just going to pull his shirt up and
just
show
giving
case
himself
by case
lots and lots of options. That's real
He's
smart.
not stupid.
Yeah, don't commit to anything that you're not ready to commit to. That's why you end up like that platinum game that they had.
Yeah.
Scalebound. I was going to say Dragonfall. It's not Dragonfall. It's Scalebound.
No, it's not. Dragonbound. What game was it again? It was broody teenage dude with dragons.
Yeah.
Next question. Devil May Dragon.
He's keeping his options open. He's playing the game. He's being an executive.
Yeah, when we talk about a couple of years, it's just when we look at the roadmap of games and the things that we're building, that's what we see. So we're trying to be blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yo, we're going to do what we're going to do until we can't do that anymore. And then we're going to...
The next point is the point that I have been harping on from the beginning. Quote, when we think about Xbox One, absolutely, we think about Xbox game streaming could be a good way for us to bridge generations and to be able to let people play those games. I have been saying that from the get-go. When they announced, hey, we're going to support games for 2 years, and everybody lost their minds before PlayStation said it, I swear I wish PlayStation would have said it first, because it just put me through torment for 3 months of my life. But when this happened, everybody was like, well, they're not going to do that. I don't have to upgrade. I'm like, yeah, you don't. And here's the thing. I don't expect you'll have to upgrade ever, because I think those Xbox One S's that they're still selling, that'll eventually be $99, they're going to be cloud boxes. That's the plan. The whole plan is this, to get as many devices into the world that can play Game Pass.
It's a service.
They're not going to turn off the Xbox One. Why would you?
There's no reason to.
There's no reason to.
A lot of people straight up use it as their Roku, dude.
Yeah.
It's a good media box, too.
Yeah. So they're going to bring it to smart TVs. They've already brought it to your phone. We know they're going to bring it to browser. Like, I've been saying this forever. They have 50 plus million Xbox Ones in the wild. You're just going to turn on the streaming app and go, hey, if you are that person that doesn't want to upgrade and you don't want to buy the box, you can still play Elder Scrolls through your internet connection here. Did you even know
$15.
that? Yeah. It's genius. It's genius.
Damn it, Phil.
I thought it was hilarious that people thought that at the time when I said this was before you, but at the time when I said this, there were people that were like, you really think Xbox can do that? I was like, I don't think there's a world where they don't do this.
I stand by my statement, man. I'll stand by it till I die. Services company.
This was an easy one.
This is interesting because like it all goes back to like Sony is definitely pushing you the traditional console model. You buy new box, you get new games. And Microsoft is like, I don't care where you play our games. Here, does your toaster do it? Yep. Did somebody ran the Game Pass app on the Samsung TVs with the smart screen in them and played?
Did you see it on the fridge?
Yeah. Yeah.
It runs on the new Google streamer Chromecast, and Stadia doesn't.
Oh, of course not.
But you can sideload xCloud.
I have no words. We're not doing that today because
Kyle wrote me right before we recorded. He goes, will the Xbox Series X have the ability to stream on console like you can with PlayStation 4? So I assumed that he meant like PlayStation Now. You can stream directly on the console, not stream from the console like Remote Play. Although they did update the Remote Play app in Game Pass, so you can do that on iPhones now. They can do that this week.
They're using it. They're going through the browser. They're getting around.
No, two different things.
Oh, that's right. That is two different things.
Yes, they are working on a browser solution to bypass Apple.
This is in your own home.
On the remote stream, you can remote from your own Xbox to your Apple phone starting this week. The app. But Kyle, what I think you mean is streaming, like PlayStation Now. Yes, they said this. This is another reason why I was a little confounded. They committed to xCloud on Xbox Ones at like the unveiling of xCloud, like 3 years ago. They were like, yeah, we're going to do this. They're going to put xCloud on everything. Everything that they make. Tablets, Surfaces, PCs, Windows. Every time you buy a Windows machine, you open up your little toolbar and you've got like those 18 apps that you want to delete. Game Pass is going to be there, front and center.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it already is.
Yeah,
they pushed it onto my husband's laptop with the Windows 10 update.
Phones.
It's
and
there.
Of course, they're going to put it on the 50 million Xbox consoles. They'd put it on the 100 million PS4s if PlayStation would let them. They'd put it on the 50 million Switches if Nintendo would let them.
Yeah, this is what they want to sell you.
That's
they
the
don't
whole
care if you
point
buy their
of streaming.
That is
the point of streaming, is that it will go on anything. That devices like my Chromebook, which has an i5 from 4 years ago, right? But I can totally play Stadia and xCloud on my Chromebook. I played Gears 5 on my Chromebook the other night. Just because I didn't want to go downstairs. I just pulled out my controller and paired up and played.
You are the perfect example of laziness for that. I love you, man, but
I have a work to reiterate you. I have a work Chromebook that sits in my backpack that I leave in my car, and then I have a home Chromebook because I don't want to carry my Chromebook back and forth from the car to the house every day.
Yeah.
So I just leave one.
At least you're not buying a $2,000 machine.
Yeah, it's not a Mac, right?
Then I would make
it's a Chromebook. It's like $200. It's like the S.
Yeah.
It's the Series S all over again. Why not?
There's going to be, you're going to
love
open up
cheap
your
technology.
pantry. There's going to be an S mounted right in there with a screen.
Do you
I
see
didn't feel like.
Did you see the person that ran it on their smart fridge? They were running Doom on their smart fridge.
Yeah, that was the one I was referencing before. That's
what
hilarious to me.
I want that too.
My husband said no to that refrigerator.
I want my Christmas lights to do Game Pass.
Just project it onto your house.
The best.
Project it onto your house.
Oh.
All right. I think so that they wrung all that out of Mr. Spencer.
It was a lot in there.
It was a lot in there. And look, everybody's hungry for. If you're not going to ship us a box now, then you give us as much information as you.
I'm so glad I got to do the Xbox Drive show with them because I even told them for a recorder. I was like, I'm not going to get to any of this on our next show. Like our next show is going to be this whole article.
There's too much. We have a couple of quick ones, and then we'll get into a couple more listener questions. We've hit 2 of them already. But so this was announced. And we talked about the Halo Master Chief Collection on the 17th of November, which is 1 week after we get hardware. They're going to fully optimize this bad boy for this new box. And that means 120 frames per second in campaign multiplayer, split screen improvements, up to 4K on the Series X. This thing is getting like...
I'm interested I'm upset that they didn't have an Xbox Wire article because the tweet that they put out, I had so many more questions.
I agree.
Are we getting 4K 120 actually in the campaign?
I'm curious about that.
I don't think so.
There's no... I'm not going to say there's no way because I've said that before and I've been wrong. What I will say is...
Yeah, we do have 4K 120 games that aren't multiplayer. That is a thing that exists.
Sure.
So,
I think... Look, man, if you're not going to give us Halo Infinite, this was the right call.
Oh, absolutely. This
was the right call.
Yeah.
And it was a smart call. This is already in the wild. Let's update this thing. And sorry, my computer is like, hey, pay attention to me.
I've never played. All right. So I don't have a legacy with Halo. When I had my original Xbox, I played Halo. I remember playing the opener thing. I did the Warthog. I even remember the way it looked.
Okay.
But I didn't play it because I hate the driving controls. And at the time, I played sports games. I played action games. I played adventure games. Like I've always been a Zelda player, right? So I always geared towards like the Fable. I always went that way. Then I found Gears during the 360 generation, and I just played Gears and Fable and didn't play Halo at all. So I missed all of those games.
What?
The Halo Master Chief Collection comes around, and our previous co-host, Nathan, was like, you've got to play this. You got to play it. Mm-hmm. So I played Halo 1, played it all the way through, beat it. Mm-hmm. Told him, I was like, I still don't really like it. Like, it's fine. It's not that I hate it. It's fine, but it's not special to me. He goes, this has become a common anecdote. He goes, you got to play 2. All right.
Okay.
So I played 2, basically the same thing. He's like, all right, listen to me. You got to play 3. And I was like, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, I see what you're trying to do here. But ultimately what I ended up doing is I like Halo now. I liked Reach.
Reach is among Reach and ODST.
Reach is my favorite.
Reach is an exceptional Halo game.
I got the Halo experience with Reach, and I think that's the point that's missing. With Reach, I played with Sean and friends, and I played in a party where we were playing.
So that's how I played
talking
Halo
and all that.
Yes,
that's other Halo game I've ever played, I played by myself.
Oh, so my Halo 3 launch experience was I stayed up all night with 3 friends from a forum playing through all of that campaign together. And we didn't sleep, and the sun came up, and we finished that game. Wow. And that was an experience that it's the one thing I feel like I miss from a new hardware. I want that. I miss that experience. Reach, I also did that with. It was not quite the same. 3 is special for that reason for me. Reach is an exceptional game. Like, it's exceptionally good.
It was by far the best story of the games that I enjoyed.
I agree.
So ultimately, I'll put this out there. Now, I've got a ton of games to play, so I'm not in any rush to do this. But I've seen screenshots of Halo 4, and it is pretty.
It is a pretty game.
I think it's prettier than what I've seen in Halo 5, just for the style and the backdrop it's doing.
I would agree with that statement.
So
but 5
I would like to play Halo 4 campaign, yes. But I want to play with a party.
I'll play.
Dedicated party. I don't care if we start Friday night and we just do the whole thing. But I want to play Halo 4 campaign with friends, and I want to beat that one. and then
Yeah.
I will be ready for Infinite. I will have played them all.
Don't play 5 again.
Yeah, I stopped at 5.
5
That was the first one I played, and I
I'm
legit, yeah, I was like, this is not good.
5 really bummed me out,
From
and
like a
I'm
campaign level, I was like, this is not fun.
5. But I would be down to play. I think 4 is a 4-player co-op experience, right?
I thought they were all.
Uh, oh, Johnny.
In my memory, I thought they all were.
They might be the ones that you could play co-op. We should play it.
The one that I played co-op, we played with 4 people. I think we played with Bad Bit. I played with Garrett a little bit. We had a few other friends. Sean has more friends than I. I don't have multiplayer friends, so I don't think. But we can do this. I think me and you, we can get Josh or Nathan. It's like we can get a Halo thing going. We can play. I just need a commitment from 4 people. Like, let's do Halo 4 together.
Let's play. I will play Halo 4 to completion with a group. It is super fun that way, and to talk a bunch of crap.
120.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm excited.
Let's go. I'm excited about this too.
Terrible launch lineup. What a garbage. I don't understand why he was buying one. What a hot take you are.
You're buying too, so somebody else doesn't get one.
You're the lead voice of like the best Xbox show in the world, and that's your take?
Hey.
It's a bad take. Sorry,
Ryan.
I like you, Ryan, but it's a bad take.
The only reason it's a bad take is because we don't live in that world anymore, and
it's a bad take because
this horse is dead. We've killed
it. Is specifically correct.
Yes, but we don't live in that world anymore.
Fundamentally wrong, right? It's like some of this like COVID thing. You find the one stat for COVID that lets you make an opinion, and without missing this giant world of information that's circling around it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I didn't like about it. It's like it's too acute. It's so acute.
It's acute in a world we don't live in anymore.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got? We got 1 or 2 more things. And guess what, kids? They're about Game Pass. We're going to have to rename this freaking podcast. I'm telling you.
Game Pass Podcast.
And I believe some of these are live. Game Pass Podcast is going to be a tongue twister that I could not. I've already called it a podcast at least once in my intro. Dude, you're killing me here. Rainbow Six Siege is coming to Game Pass.
Is that a big get?
I think that you know what the reaction was.
Like 4 or 5 years old at this point.
Yeah, well, a lot of people still play this freaking game.
It's a big deal.
The reaction I got from a couple of my friends was, "Wait, that wasn't already free to play?"
It's done like several free weekends.
Yeah, they do free weekends all the time.
This is one game that I absolutely love watching people play.
I cannot do this game.
Lobo, former PSVG team member, he's in our chats often. Lobo Q, he plays Siege competitively. He's good.
I'm so bad at games like this that I'm not even going to sit here and be like, I'll try it on Game Pass. No. I hope you guys have fun.
I've never played it, but even watching it, I was like, oh, I can't do that.
There's no way. I'm so bad that people will be like, you have to go.
That
to not play anymore.
Looks hard.
Yeah, it looks hard, and I don't do video games that are that kind of difficult.
Where's the single player mode where they where they direct me through all of these different little scenarios that I can do on my own? They're like, hey, plant a bomb on the wall.
I want to say there is that.
Oh, really?
But it's not what you. I thought they had some sort of a training thing. Maybe you should install it. It's free.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
No, neither am I.
I got Call of Duty.
There are too many video games. We discussed it. I'm very excited for Call of Duty. I'm also very excited about the classic LucasArts remasters that are hitting October 29, Game Pass, PC and console, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, and Full Throttle remastered. These games were good.
I never played these.
Interesting. I'm curious to have you play them and see how you feel they hold up. I don't know without nostalgia that they're...
I played Grim Fandango when it came to PlayStation Plus, and to be quite honest with you, kind of hated it. Like, it was like, nope, don't want to play this anymore.
That sounds about right.
It was about, I think I gave it all a 20 minutes. So I was totally reading a book by its cover. Like, I played it, I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
They are the quintessential classic point-and-click adventure games. And that means they're obtuse and weird, and their humor, people have nostalgia for certain bits of that, right?
Yeah,
and I don't know that it holds
Jason
up.
and Lucas love Full Throttle, and I watched them play some of it. Day of the Tentacle is a Maniac Mansion sequel?
Kind of, yeah.
Like spiritual sequel?
I believe you're correct, yeah.
That alone makes me want to try it. But this is why I wasn't very excited, actually, when they acquired Double Fine. I know a lot of people have a lot of love for Tim Schafer, and it's a PC thing. Again, I think a thing that I just missed in my life. Yep. I don't have it with him or these games, or so like to me, I was like, I mean, fine, I don't care. Like I've never played Psychonauts.
Oh, that's up there for me. That's
So
like one of those games for me.
But at
yeah.
least it looks like a game that I could get into. I love platforms.
Yeah, you would probably like that game.
So I'm excited for Psychonauts 2 out of just pure curiosity of like, is this something I'm going to even like? Because I never played the first one.
It's weird and good.
I like weird and good.
I think you might like the
I'm
first
a No
one.
More Heroes fan. Like I'm good for that. I'm here for that.
That's exceptional. You are here for that. That's right. I need a t-shirt. All right. I am here for listener questions.
Yes.
We have a few more and we have some time. This is my favorite freaking thing we do, people. All right. I'm going to say that right now. Because I just like interacting with people. That's the best part. So we've talked about some of these already. Let's get into a couple of other ones. Soundscape. I have a random question for you. Are you really excited about super fast, if any, load times for next gen? I feel like that's the main push for the upgrade. I honestly would be more excited if every multi-platform game was guaranteed crossplay.
So
this is an interesting conversation.
He wrote me this yesterday, and my response to him was, I'm going to save this for the show because I've got thoughts, but I didn't want to type them out on Twitter. It's too long.
Lazy man. Tell me your thoughts.
I think it's interesting. I am excited for load times for next gen.
Yes.
I understand why it's the push in the marketing. I'm not as excited, for example, say ray tracing. I've lost like all hope for ray tracing. I'm a ray tracing hater at this point.
Oh, damn it, Donnie. We're going to get so much hate mail.
But the reason that I'm excited for, and the reason that you're seeing it with next gen and why it's so prominent, Soundscape, is that it's a measurable thing that they can show you. And that's a hard part of the pitch for these new consoles is I think the best pitch that you'll hear from these consoles, it will be what we've already kind of seen from the preview cycle. It'll be from people that have them, that tell you how easy they are to use, how fast they are to use, how uncomplicated and better their lives are for having the new consoles. You're not going to see it in resolution. You're probably not even going to see it like ray tracing is cool and you can definitely see it, but it's one of those things that I think you have to stop the picture and show it to people. Like if you put people on one console and just made them play it, and then you put them on another console and made them play it, and you had ray tracing on one and not on the other one, I don't know how many people would know, to be honest with you, because in motion, I think a lot of it gets lost. Like you have to kind of slow things down and really be like, look at the reflection that's being painted here, you know, because if you're just playing Spider-Man, think of how fast Spider-Man is.
Yeah, I think it is served best in games like Control. Games that are even like that are leaning on their atmosphere. I think ray tracing has a lot of value, but I think it has a lot of value, and I hope it has a lot of value to the horror game space.
Which is why I bought Observer.
Yeah, you can leverage and puzzle games and like atmospheric games. Like you can really Manifold Garden is a very good example.
Basically, so far, and I believe this will be the case just based on my basic understanding of the GPUs that are in these consoles and what they're capable of. Turning ray tracing on basically means you're limited at 30 frames or lower.
Yeah, that has to do with how hard that algorithm
so
has to work.
So when you give me that,
move.
I don't want to play anything that's faster moving. So I only want to play a horror game that's slow and plotting. I don't want to play Spider-Man at 30 frames a second.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to see a lot of it anyway, which is why I bought Observer. But the load times I'm excited about because it's just an indicator. It's a proof metric to people to be like, see, these consoles are better.
Yeah, I think that's why the push is definitely in the marketing. I'm excited about it, and we've talked about this multiple times because like I'm impatient and I want to be playing a game as quickly as I can from press of the button. I just want to
I'm more excited about quick resume than load times.
I think that's related to load times because I think what they leverage for quick resume is linked to how that all works out.
PlayStation's not doing it. Were you surprised? So you're getting a PlayStation 5, so we can have a little.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I think it's going to be interesting to see because they didn't discuss it, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
That's true.
I never want to completely count them out because there's been so much that they haven't.
Because there's a lot of stuff we don't know. That's fair.
I feel like I want to get that box and see.
I think their card activity like load states thing that basically ruins the point of having a quick resume. Yeah,
well, I think that is indicative that they're doing some form of quick resume. They're storing something in state. It is different, but I think they're going to do
like
their
they're bookmarking a state in the game.
Yes, and I think that's interesting. But so we'll see.
I took from their unveiling of their UI and all that, I took that they don't want to allocate the storage space to quick resume, I think. I suspect. We'll see. I'm curious to get that thing and compare.
I will say to the last point of this question, I really wish that crossplay across consoles was a bigger
Crossplay,
thing.
cross progression, all of that. But here, I'm sorry, you're right to bring that up. I completely forgot to even address that point. The point with crossplay though is that has nothing to do with the consoles. It's not a next gen thing. We could have crossplay on our current consoles. We had it inadvertently with Rocket League for weeks until somebody figured it out.
Yeah,
like they can do it whenever they want. It's just I'll call it politics.
Yeah, I think that's the right word, or just like, or ego, or whatever word you want to use, right?
Just
but I really wish, I do wish.
Walled garden.
It's nonsense, and it's silly because
silly.
You lose nothing. Like, I want to be able to pull, like, Monster Hunter World is a really good example. I own that game 3 different places. Just let me have one character.
Well,
at least cross progression.
We're seeing this stuff come down, and what I said when this first happened, when we had the first Jim Ryan quote where he was talking about protecting the kids and everything from crossplay. The first point I ever made about crossplay is one that I believe is true. It's in years past, it was hard to drum up any motive for doing this at the platform level. Now, I don't think you can have that stance anymore. And the reason is so much of today's gaming is multiplayer centric and free to play.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Those style of games, and as big as they are, they will mandate and require cross progression and crossplay. You can't, like, when your game value is literally the amount of people playing, you can't afford to separate them.
I agree.
So I think it will come down. It will take time. It will take people like the Epics and the Activisions and Call of Duty pushing the narrative forward.
Yeah, I agree. And they have. They have.
They have.
You know what I mean? They've
We're gonna
done
have to drag them through it. And you see it. PlayStation is allowing it on some, but there will come a day when they just go, we're going to do it for everything.
We stand to lose nothing by doing it.
Yeah, we're just losing PR is what we're doing.
Yeah, we lose goodwill by not, and that's a problem.
Yeah, but that's not a console thing. It's not a power thing. It was never a limitation of the system.
No. It's not necessarily a next-gen feature, but I think to the point of the question, it's like a thing I wish they would be solving in this gen.
It would be
like,
nice.
Fix it. Like,
Ubisoft, did you see their thing today?
Yes, they're combining their services.
Yeah, so they had like the Uplay thing, and then they had the Ubi, whatever it was before.
Connect?
Rewards or whatever. So the new one is called Ubi Connect.
Oh, okay.
It is offering the same reward stuff that you got before, but it's also offering cross progression for all of their games. So like it's all being backed up in the cloud. So you can play Far Cry 6 on your PC and then pick up where you left off on Xbox. As I understand it, it just came out. We don't know, but and they were very clear to say all new releasing games moving forward. It's not backwards.
Yeah, they're not going to. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
So, like,
I get
Valhalla,
not wanting to.
You can pick up and play in multiple places. And here's the interesting thing about that is that we know that Ubi Plus, their subscription service, or Uplay Plus, I call it Ubi Plus because that's what they should have called it. It's coming, or it's been announced to come to Luna and Stadia.
Yeah. Yes, they are so Ubisoft is interesting because they are always everybody's partner on day one.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yep.
And I think that's interesting and fast.
It was announced for Stadia over a year ago and it still hasn't showed up. So who knows if it ever shows up. But
the thing is, we're done with that.
If they are doing cross progression and cross saves across all of their platforms, that actually makes maybe subscribing to one of those services much more appealing.
Agree.
If you can play on your console at home and then pick up on your phone on a better streaming service and keep going, that's a win for that type of stuff. So I'm interested. It was a cool announcement. So the world's getting there. We're getting there.
Things are changing. The wheels are moving, if you will.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more about Game Pass because that's what this show is about now. Do you think, this was an interesting question from Derek, do you think Game Pass is devaluing video games? I enjoy buying my games at full price because I feel like I'm supporting the developer, so hopefully they can keep making more games. This is interesting to me because anecdotally what I hear is that the deals that Microsoft cuts to bring games to Game Pass are very advantageous for the person publishing it.
Yep.
They're not cutting crappy deals. They are not doing
They're
an
a lot
Apple
more
TV.
than we think they are.
They are making good deals, especially with some of these smaller developers. So I don't necessarily think it's devaluing games. I think it stands to put games that people may never have tried into their hands more often. And that, for some developers, especially smaller ones, has a ton of value. Like, you might never have played Life is Strange if it hadn't hit Game Pass. And now suddenly you played it and you're like, man, I want to see everything that Don't Nod does.
And that's the use case that we see. we
Right.
see that when we put these games in, it's a great way to prepare for your next announcement. Put
Yes.
the old announcement in, announce the new game,
Love
it drives sales. So it's a good marketing tactic just on its own. We see that when games hit Game Pass, they sell more on Switch, they sell more on PlayStation. So
Right.
marketing alone is great.
Yeah.
It's almost worth it for marketing. But the gamesindustry.biz articles that have talked to these developers, we had they had several developers that said not only did Microsoft cover the cost of making the game we put into Game Pass, they covered the cost of our next game.
Yeah, these are not crappy deals by everything that I
That's
have read. That's stupendous.
Huge.
Stupendous.
That's huge. That's not. They're not like, hey, we'll give you $50,000 if you put your game
Right.
into Game Pass. No,
Oh.
it's millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I think that
We'll fund your game, and I think it bleeds some partnership. It breeds that through the system because it's like,
yes,
we partnered with you to make your game a thing. We made you solvent to make the next game a thing. You're probably more likely to come back and also work with us again, aren't you?
Yeah, like you're not, it's exactly it. It's return business largely, and deals that Microsoft wants to make because they want that breadth of content across their service.
Yep.
Especially with smaller indie games, it's like it's a win-win. Especially if the deals are good. We're not talking. By everything I read, the Apple TV or Apple whatever Apple's like arcade service, those were bad deals. They weren't great deals, and people have come out and talked about some of those deals. Some of them did not sound super good. This is so I understand the cynicism in thinking that it wouldn't be good, but it seems as if Microsoft is doing right.
And I don't want to just miss Derek's point. There is something when you buy a game. Like, here's the thing.
Yes,
you're not being. You have the option. So, for example, I'm not saying this is the best use of your money, but I subscribe to Game Pass. I played most of the Life is Strange games there. I own all the Life is Strange games.
Yep,
I don't own them digitally. I own physical copies of every
I bought
game.
the collector's editions of each of them.
I own all the Oris physically.
Yep. Yeah.
The collector's editions when they launched. And I didn't even open them.
I tend to double dip across Switch sometimes when I do that. Like, I'll play it on Game Pass and then I'll pick up a physical Switch copy. I like having the art sometimes. Like, yes, I have the income to be able to make that choice, but like I understand wanting to support that dev, and for me it's like I'll just buy your game anywhere I can.
And I never think about supporting the dev unless it's indie. Like, I'm not really worried about supporting id or
no. This is always indie stuff.
Like, they're good.
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about them. They're
There's
fine.
that too.
343 is fine. They don't need my support,
fine.
right? But these indie games, they do. And here's the thing: they're not locked to Game Pass forever. They rotate out.
Correct.
They still go on sale, so they're still reaching people that don't hit Game Pass. If they have any sort of multiplayer, as we see, Game Pass actually pushes that too. So it comes to Game Pass, you get 1 million people playing it. Those 1 million people tell 1 million other people, hey, I'm playing this game. It's awesome. You should subscribe to Game Pass or buy the game. And come play with me because the game is cool.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a lot of different ways that I think Game Pass is supportive, but I understand the idea. One fact or one thought that I've brought up a few times, so this is not new for me per se, but I do think there's a negative effect on Game Pass, at least for me and my behavior. I rarely, if ever, go to the store anymore.
Interesting.
I don't know what's coming out if it's not a highlighted release, because I just go to Game Pass, and I think that is a negative thing. I do. They've got to find a way to mix some of that or something. Maybe give you a reward for checking some things out on the store or something, because I noticed that there were several months where I was like, I would go into the store and I would just see like a dozen games. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing because they're not in Game Pass and I don't check.
You'd be so surprised by my weird. No, you wouldn't. Type A tendencies. I make spreadsheets for that stuff. I'm a problem.
But I do that on Switch. On Switch,
yes.
I have a full wish list that I catalog and everything, but I don't on Xbox. Why?
Oh, because
Game
of
Pass.
That's interesting. Mine always just kind of goes across all the consoles, and I make my call. And then what I do is before I go to buy it, I double check and see. Oh, hey, is this good?
Or the other alternative, a sweet indie direct comes out, and I choose not to buy something off the premise that it will be on Game Pass.
I've done that before. I try with indies not to do that, only because it's like, like games like Raji are great examples. It's like that dev, that's a small studio. This is their first game. I'm gonna buy it, right? I can,
and I agree with you there. I do the same thing, but like only when a game is something that I really want, and that's the difference. When I really want to play something. So my example would be the Red Lantern.
Yeah, that's
the Red Lantern comes out next week.
Yep.
It was announced day one on Game Pass a year ago. However, when they re-announced the game's release date, no mention of Game Pass. Doesn't look like it's coming to Game Pass. I'm not going to wait for it to come to Game Pass. I'm going to buy it on Switch because I want to play it right away. But if it was a game like Raji, that I was like, that looks cool, but I don't necessarily feel like I need to play it, I'm going to wait for it to come to Game Pass.
That's 100% fair.
Because why else am I subscribing? That's why I'm subscribing. Like, that's the whole point of a subscription. I don't feel bad about that.
I do I use it as like Netflix subscription almost, or a game. I use it as a GameFly subscription. I use it as try before you buy.
Rental, yeah.
I use it as a try before you buy often, and especially with indies, if I love it, I'll either use the 20% off to own it, or I'll snag it on Switch to play it a second time, because I'm one of those repeat game people if I really love something. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it's devalued games for me, though. I 100% still think, I don't always think I'm going to wait for Game Pass on this.
One of the things that, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I do that a lot. One of the things that, one of the main reasons why I loved having you on the show, they said, I think we think in a similar cadence. It's like, I feel like I will jump in and you will jump in, and neither one of us get upset about it, but I know other people do when I record with them. So one of the things that I really liked that they've been doing with Game Pass is they've been treating it like a membership service, and they've been offering you discounts on other things. I think that might be a way of getting people into the other store stuff. Maybe a game doesn't come to Game Pass, but like, hey, are you a Game Pass subscriber? 20% off this other game if you go buy it today.
Related items would be a really smart move, even if it's just other games you might like. And they're in like
movies and stuff, right? We get perks to get movie rentals. Like I've brought up several movie rentals. I think I like what they're doing. It seems like they're testing. They're random and they're like like kind of guerrilla. Like they're not really promoted. But I would love for Game Pass perks to include, like, hey, here's a 20% coupon off any game you buy from the store this month, or something like that. Those would be nice little incentives to kind of spread the wealth around.
Even just like because you played, like Steam does, because you played this, you might also like these. Just float the suggestions. Just get people to the store, and it would solve a lot of your problems.
I was even thinking like an ad or a tile in the Game Pass app like that.
Exactly. Like it could just say, because you played Doom, you might like. Yep. Doom's a bad example, but. And you click through and it'll have a store page.
They need to have some sort of discovery for that, especially for indie devs. Discoverability, I'm not concerned about for any other reason except for indie devs.
They deserve.
I'm not worried about people finding Batman or Doom, like those games. We'll figure that out. But the indie games, like, let's help some of them out. Let's help get some, because we see that all the time. People being able to find it is the most important part.
Yeah, they get buried. They get absolutely buried, and I think
if you don't know what it is, you're just going to scroll over it.
Exactly. I think that's why a related games thing would be a really good idea, because you liked Life is Strange. You might like other adventure style games with stories that are written.
That's a good idea. I wouldn't even be opposed to, like, what if they did like the ID at Xbox did a little video promo. They were like, hey, did you play this on Xbox on Game Pass this month? Did you know that there are these other 5 games in the store are similar to this? That's a good idea.
It's smart, and Steam does this fairly well. Like, you click through, it'll give you suggestions, and it's not always great. It depends on how big your library is, what you play, how frequently, but it'll give you, like, you seem to like this style of game. Here are some other styles. Like, oh, you like tactical RPGs. Here are some other ones you may dig. It would be real smart for Microsoft to start leveraging these interconnections that they built in these services and link them together. And I think they can, and I think they will. They just need some time, but you'll get on that. Let's see. Let's do one more. We've already run slightly long, but I don't care because we can.
Yeah, we can. It's your show.
I kind of love this question. I don't know the answer to it, but I want to put it out there. Rob wanted to know, is the Xbox logo on the new controller, the X and S series controller, dimmable?
No.
You know for a fact it's not?
I don't know for a fact, but I've asked many people that have it, and I've looked around and I've searched for this, and it's not. Here's the reason why I say no. It is not in my current UI, and I'm on the Alpha Ring.
So you have the most up-to-date software.
So if it's not in that, I can't imagine that's in on anybody else's unless they have something I don't have. But I have yet to see or hear anything about it, so I assume no. I'm
bringing this up because my hugest pet peeve as a person who owns a lot of electronic devices is LED lights that don't shut off and dim. And I want them to sometimes. Because sometimes I want to sit in a dark room and be a creepy basement dweller and play a video game without the pop of light.
I have never ever had an issue with the light.
Interesting. And controller light's generally not my problem. I'm just kind of bringing it up.
I think it's completely different than the DualShock, because the DualShock is not only colored, but it
Yeah.
casts the light out in front of you, and that's
I find it super annoying.
yeah,
on
that's
that.
the annoying part. But
That's dimmable.
But the Xbox light doesn't cast anything in front of you. If anything, it just kind of like, for me at least, as I'm sitting there thinking, I'm thinking of holding the controller in my hand and then putting the controller in my lap.
Yeah.
It's not even in my field of view. Like, I'm looking
How often
way
do you
up.
play in a completely dark room?
Most of the time.
Okay, fair enough. I don't, I don't, like I said, I don't look down at the controller that much, but it brings up a point. Like when you look at, like, I would love those lights.
I'm sure there's some luminescence, right? But I would imagine the screen brightness being projected at me would drown any of that out.
Yeah, and generally I agree with
it would
that.
have to be a dark game, I think.
But there's horror games.
Right, like if it was PT and I was playing completely in the dark with the absence of light, maybe I would notice it.
I'm also hiding under the covers when that is happening. So
but
it's
don't
fine.
they make like little like, I'm sure Etsy or somebody has like little transparent decals and stuff you can put over it.
They do. They make those for the PlayStation, but I also think that the light bar on the PlayStation controllers is dimmable. Not completely. I think I don't know.
Dimmable. I know that for sure.
Dim that. I don't remember.
I know that is I have given PlayStation I've given the PlayStation fans some gruff over my DualShock battery life. They are not great. They're not awful, but they're not great. By today's standards,
they're atrocious.
Yeah, they're not good.
But I mean, I also don't have to put batteries in it, so I just cycle back.
I don't think I've charged my Switch controller in 3 months.
Yo, that Pro controller is like
it just works forever.
I don't understand what god they sacrificed to for the battery in that thing. But that god,
and it's a really good controller too.
Great controller,
man.
The D-pad sucks, but we're not going to do that today. As a pro Tetris player, I am not. The D-pad sucks. All right, I think that's all the questions we had. I had to end on something silly. Silly. So, I mean, do you have anything else going on, Donnie?
No.
End this thing?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and end this thing. We're going to record a little blurb about a game that we've played for review, but we can't tell you about it yet because it's still yet to be embargo. So
I had to remind Donnie that we had to take it off the show.
The idea was to talk about it tonight.
Embargo emails, bro.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
So we'll release it in a couple days. So you get a little bonus, like a little post show content from us here in a couple days.
It always gets sillier when we've been doing this for an hour and a half first.
This is great. I cannot tell you, my mood has completely improved from the moment that I sat down.
See, we both had a day and we were discussing this on Discord and I was just like, look, I'm like, 4 minutes from table flipping. So this will be good. This will be like Steam expulsion fun times. So, all right, folks, this is your reminder to go hang out with us on Discord where all the nonsense is. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm ET Dragon. Donnie is Eat the Hype on Twitter on the Bird app. And I'm here for that. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.